I think both of you sort of named the societal tension. In what ways do you suggest we begin to engage societally around this question of just allowing people to rest, of not trying to go. What are your suggestions about how we engage?
I think it exists on two levels. I'm kind of hinting at that at the end of my paper. One, it exists at an individual level. There's stuff that's within our own control, that's ourselves. And that means, decisions that our families make, that our friends see us make, or we see other people make, and that, I think, is going to have an effect. If more people start to step back and make it a day of rest, that will have a societal effect. It's a difficult thing to do individually, but it can be done. And sometimes the decisions are made for themselves. My daughter was in marching band for 2 years. She's taking AP courses, and she just decided, I'm just like, there's no time for me. I can't do it all. And so that was a decision that she made, but it was a hard decision. I mean, she got a little misty-eyed when her sister was a freshman. Now she went into marching band, her friends were there and all that. But so you have that pull that's there, but it takes strength on an individual basis to resist that. So I think that's one thing. But I think at another level, as communities of faith, it's got to be local. It can't be from this top-down thing. It has to be, and that's where I've seen it work, where you'll have local rabbis and ministers and priests and other leaders, from the community will come and approach a school board, approach, other organizations and say, can we at least, have them start at 1 instead of 6:45 a.m. And so I think that type of grassroots type stuff, both at the individual level and at the small local network level, I think that will have a profound effect. But it takes this type of relationship. That's the challenge. Some of the stuff we talked about with technology, as we become more diffuse and our relationships are not as close. We're not knowing who our neighbors are around us. We're not involved in those local community organizations. It's hard to affect that type of change and become more isolated. That's the challenge.
Thank you both for the question and the response. And part of your response, will embolden me to be a little more outspoken about some of the hours that are expected of us for leisure activities. Because, again, as we talked about, in this frenetically paced world in which we find ourselves, it feels sometimes like there are structures that conspire against slowing and honing and so forth. The other thing that I would add is that for me and for my family, marking times that are sacred as a family and not relying exclusively or even mostly on the synagogue is very important. And frankly, I would say it's one of the great insights of the Jewish tradition throughout time and space that we learn in some ways through the pain of exile and movement, that our tradition had to be portable in a variety of ways. It could be celebrated and honored in different contexts. So Shabbat meals, when we prepare for them, when we sit together, when the children are bathed, etc., can be as uplifting or moving as anything that happens in a quote-unquote temple or synagogue. In fact, in the Jewish tradition, every table at which you eat after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem is considered an altar. The whole rabbinic notion of Shabbat is based in large part on the reality of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and knowing that there needed to be other sacred centers. So text study, prayer, and Shabbat and holidays become those sacred centers. If you can't make pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem, then you can make pilgrimage in your home in Cairo or in Vilna or even in Newton. So for me, the family aspect and relocating of the sacred is powerful. And you mentioned it, Father, in your comments about Thanksgiving as an example of that, and the ways in which that becomes, for many people, a sacred and festive time. How might we then allow that to shape more of our experiences with friends and family?
Let's say thank you to our three speakers.